Hello, I'd like to talk a little bit about game length and quality of experience and sort of the things that I think about as a developer and as a gamer. So it's sort of a contentious subject because if you ask game length, if you ask developers what they think about game length, they'll say game length doesn't matter. It shouldn't be considered in reviews. People bringing it up is dumb, and certainly I know where they're coming from. And then consumers want a measure of value for their game, and I mean I think it really depends on sort of what point in your life you're at, and sort of what you value, quality of experience versus just time doing things. So when I was in high school, I had Final Fantasy VII, and I don't know, I put in maybe 60 hours or more into it, and I enjoyed it, and it was very entertaining. 60 hours at least then. And then more recently, I don't know when it came out, say 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, I was playing like Lost Odyssey, and Lost Odyssey is a very similar game in terms of, it's a menu-based, turn-based RPG, stats, all that sort of thing. And I probably put in 40 or 50 hours into that, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this time, where's this time going? This is dumb. And I think, the main thing that changed was not, that Lost Odyssey was, terribly inferior to Final Fantasy VII, but just that my time came at a premium, and so I didn't feel like the grinding was respectful to my time at this point in my life, 10 years later, than Final Fantasy VII, where I was like, hey, I don't have anything better to do, this is great. And I mean, honestly, that's I used to really like JRPGs and the story-driven things, but honestly, I've steered clear of them just because usually they all have this insanely padded game time. And it's like, I don't want to get into that. And honestly, I think the best RPG ever, maybe the best game ever made, is this one. No, it's stuck. This one right here, Panzer Dragoon Saga, which is my favorite game. It's amazing. Well, maybe it's tied with Silent Hill too, I don't know. But this game is like really amazing, but it's the cool part is that it's an RPG and it's, 10, 15 hours long. And they're an awesome 10 and 15 hours. And there's, you can grind if you want, but I mean, you really don't have to. And the experience is just really awesome. And so, I mean, that to me is worth more than, a game that has a lot of grinding, that wastes a lot of time. And actually, I don't know, I think I paid like $120 for that or something ridiculous because it's very hard to come by. But I have 2 copies now. Which is like, they only made 5,000 in the US or something, so I have like one 2500th of the Panzer Dragoon Saga stock. Anyway, so game length, I think it's really more about quality of experience to me at this point in my life, and one of the interesting things was the creative director of Drakengard 3, which is another JRPG, but he did sort of this amazing puppet interview, and he talked about, the nature of violence in video games, but also he touched briefly on game length, and, he said that he found it very limiting, that he couldn't make, you know, like a 3-minute game where those 3 minutes are the best in your life. You know, so 3 minutes of absolute euphoria for $60, you know, people wouldn't like that, you know, versus creating a game that's, you know, maybe not as great, but has 10 or whatever hours of gameplay. And so, I mean, I think, you know, I'm not trying to say that, you know, game length should not be considered, or it's not something that matters. I mean, some game developers like to say that, and I would like to say that, but I don't feel that's ridiculous. But I think the value proposition for a video game is kind of skewed and kind of confusing. And so I have some examples of that. So, like, firstly, for, like, Call of Duty, you can buy that for, I don't know, let's say you buy, like, last year's Call of Duty for, like, $20 or something. So $20, and then you play, like, 1,000,000 hours online or something. You just play that game online for the rest of the year. And maybe you need, you know, well, if you're playing on PC or whatever, then you don't need Xbox Live or whatever, PSN Plus. So, you know, $20 and you've just got 1,000,000,000,000,000 hours of entertainment. I don't know. People play a lot of Call of Duty. So then that's like a great value in that sense, because, you know, games with multiplayer content have a lot of replay value. But then, let's say that same person is like me and went to see Godzilla in IMAX 3D, which I think was like 1950 for the ticket, for one ticket, and I went with my wife. And then it was like $2 service charge because I wanted to reserve the seats because my time is worth something. I don't want to wait and, you know, or go to the place and buy the ticket early. So anyway, it was like $21.50 to see a 2-hour film, and I greatly enjoyed that 2-hour film. And then I don't know, I have no complaints. But some people would say, you know, or you can buy a Blu-ray of a movie for $20. So you get like 2 hours of entertainment. You know, if you buy the Blu-ray, you get the repeat value. You can keep watching it. I'm a big theater fan, so like seeing movies in the theater a lot. But I try to cut back because it's so expensive. But anyway, you know, so $20. 2 hours of entertainment. I think this is a proposition, and you know, 2 hours of entertainment with the replay value if you buy the Blu-ray. So I mean, I think this is something people are comfortable with. But in the game space, I think it's people are sort of skewed by the notion of Call of Duty. So, you know, Retrograde was too short. You know, people could maybe get through it in an hour or something, and you know, it was a $10 game. So with my movie analogy, you know, $20 for 2 hours of entertainment, we were doing fine, you know, but people felt like it was a very short game. Now, the problem is compounded because if you were to play through all the content in Retrograde, it's about 13 hours. So this is assuming you make no mistakes, you just play through everything, you know, all the different difficulty levels, that works out to be 4 hours, and then all of challenge mode. We have something like 130 challenges, and that's, I think, 9 hours. So that's 13 hours of game. And, you know, perhaps, you know, there's a lot of similar things in the game, so maybe that counts like grinding in an RPG or something. But, I mean, that is content that I made, that took time to make. But I guess we weren't smart about it. I don't know, and again, it's always tough for me to talk about Retrograde, but it's sort of weird that some content counts and other content doesn't count, you know, towards what people feel has value. And I mean, you know, Retrograde, I understand where they're coming from, because we have about 40 minutes of music and about 40 minutes of different animated backgrounds, maybe like 45. Anyway, so I mean, I don't know if there's a good answer, but it just seems complicated to try and deliver a good value proposition, because I mean, in my mind, I would rather have a shorter game, pared down with be just the highlights almost, not have the filler. And I'm sure other people would disagree and be like, oh, this game's too short. But if a game's too short, I'm like, yay, that means I can play more games. But then I think that sort of goes into, disposable income, game budget, like, are you trying to spend $20 and play Call of Duty for a year? Is that sort of your game budget? Or do you want a variety of different game experiences, which is what interests me and why I don't like MMOs, because I don't want to sink a bunch of time into one game when there are so many interesting games out there, and I haven't really played all of these games that I'm gesturing to. When I had a lot more disposable income, when I worked, at a AAA game development, I would just buy every game that I, seemed interesting, or every game that I heard about and, thought, hey, I might want to play this. But then, I was working on overtime, so I didn't actually get to play all this. And then, of course, there are games that I just bought because they were cheap or funny or bad. I used to buy, like, bad games, too. Anyway, I don't know. I feel like I probably should be wrapping this up, but I don't even know if I've said everything I wanted to say. I guess it's just sort of challenging as a game developer to deliver an experience that people are going to be happy with, because everyone has different expectations for, what they consider fun, what they consider worthwhile, and what they like. And I think with Neverending Nightmares, the game's going to be short. I don't think I ever said anything but that, and but I'm hoping, because we're creating sort of a different and fresh experience, that people will be understanding, and I think, to some extent that works well. With, you look at Gone Home or Journey or some of the more artsy games, people seem to cut them more slack, and so hopefully we're artsy enough. I don't know if it's artsy or if it's just, the unique gameplay that sort of sets them apart, but hopefully we're in that category where people won't be like, oh, this is way too short, which I'm sure there's plenty of people who complain that Journey and Gone Home are way too short, but I mean, I don't know, to me, I like a lot of action movies these days seem like too long. Like, hey, Transformers 2 is like 2 hours and 40 minutes long or something. I don't know. One of the Transformers movies are really long, and it's like, get an editor, start snipping, create a compelling thing, and that's what we do with Neverending Nightmares, is we are very careful about what we put in the game. We want to put only the good stuff, and we want to be, very respectful to you and your time. So that's what we're trying to do, and who knows how it'll be received, but I'll keep my fingers crossed. Anyway, thanks for watching.